The sun and moon and the stars, they make the wind blow. It took me 20 years to understand, but lost to me is how the lives of friends go, like autumn leaves and Oklahoma wind. But it made me strong to be on my own. Never did me no harm to live all alone. But now and then, in the color of the evening, drunken in a ballroom with the fan turning, I come to miss a view. This afternoon was cloudy and the rains came. The third day of my birthday, San Miguel. It seems that lately as I'm doubling as the storm bay, I've been followed like a shadow since the death. But it made me strong to be on my own. Never did me no harm to live all alone. But now and then, in the color of the evening, drunken in a ballroom with the fan turning, I come to miss a view. Dear friendships and relations, see what I have done. I've gathered all my fingers in one place, and they breathe the breathless, deathly stale. And since they took the song for me, I guess mechanics never really set the pace. But I'm back and I'm strong. Never did me no harm to be on my own, to live all alone. But now and then, in the color of the evening, drunken in a ballroom with the band turning, I come to miss a view.
Good spell.
Beautiful song, man.
Spell. Yeah, I tell you, just starting out, you know, it's a big deal when the folks you look up to extend a hand to you. You moved to Los Angeles really as a teenager, didn't you?
I moved out there when I was 18. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And how did that feel? I mean, you went from St. Louis to Los Angeles, correct?
Right. Yeah. It's funny. I look back on it. I think it struck me more when I was out there not that long ago. I was staying at a hotel right across the street from one of the apartments I lived in when I was 18, and now having a son who was about in his early 20s back then, I thought, I wouldn't want to see him move to California or to LA, especially at his age now, much less when he was 18, And I remember thinking, my folks really, they trusted, me to to go out there. They had a lot of faith that everything would turn out okay, I guess. And but you know, going out there when I was 18, I realized at that moment, thinking about my son being in his early 20s, how impressionable I must have been, and it was wonderful. I mean, I remember thinking the excitement of the first night I landed there. Just the approach into LAX, it was like the second flight I'd ever taken in my life, and I saw the lights of the city, and I thought, oh, this is fantastic. Look at the size of the city. And it seemed like an hour later I was still on approach. You know, we were still flying over LA, and finally landed, and my buddy picked me up, and we first thing we did was he said, I'm going to drive you up Sunset Strip so you can check it out. And
Oh man.
I remember the billboards for all the records and the movies that were coming out, and the characters on Sunset Strip. It was like a crazy kind of confederacy of counterculture people, dropouts, people of all kinds. There was the lowrider cars with doing the hydraulic things, and the cruising up and down Sunset, and then there were the people on the street, and we actually drove by one club. It was either a whiskey or a club next to it, and on the marquee, I remember faintly hearing some music that sounded familiar. And as I drove by, I looked up, and it was Moby Grape, One Night Only, playing at this club. And you could hear him coming out the door, and it struck me big time, and I was smitten, with Southern California and LA from that point on. Still love it, still love it a lot.
Well, what an important time in the history of music that was. And what was your very first professional job when you were out there?
When I came out, I had come out to do a record for RCA, and the guy that picked me up, his brother was a producer, and his brother produced the first Jefferson Airplane album, Surrealistic Pillow, and he did the Nilsson area ballet album. So this guy had done some records. He had a track record already, and he had recorded Jose Feliciano's Light My Fire. And so I was, my head was swimming. I was thinking, man, I'm going to do a record with this guy. I'd go home in a couple weeks and be on the radio, and all my friends, I can, gather up my buddies, and we can go play anywhere we want. It was not quite that simple. And it turned into, like most stories of that nature, I got dropped from the label before the album ever came out. And I think, luckily. But that was my first job, was working for him. He hired me to play piano, just, kind of, it was his way of throwing some money my way by letting me play these union recording sessions. And so he would just put me on the date, and then I graduated to making chord charts for him for the dates and stuff like that. And it was great experience for me, because it taught me a lot about things I knew nothing about, like playing in the studio with other really professional musicians. I went from playing with my buddies from grade school to playing with some guys from the wrecking crew, and it was a real eye-opener for me.
Well, that's a university education right there, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure was. It sure was.
Well, I was really lucky in 1983 to meet a band from Phoenix called J. David Sloan and the Rogues. And J. David Sloan was the lead singer and frontman of the band. The music director, it was a gentleman named Billy Williams, and they were, both in their early 40s. I was 23, I guess. But in that band was an 18-year-old Matt Rawlings.
Oh my gosh.
And a 21-year-old Ray Herndon, a 21-year-old Matt McKenzie. Jeff Burry was the drummer. But I worked a gig with them in Europe that my buddy Buffalo Wayne, he called himself, he's a country singer over there in Luxembourg, and he booked me on this gig, and they were the main act, or one of two main acts, and I played the set changes basically. But anyway, which didn't go well for me. So they offered to learn my songs and let me sit in during their sets. They really were the first band that I got to work with and record with later. They invited me to come out to Phoenix and make some demos with them. So I did, and Billy Williams produced those demos, and those were the songs that I took to Nashville, the recordings, and and somehow or another they fell into the right hands. Guy Clark played them for Tony Brown, and Tony eventually signed me to MCA through Bo's connection at Curb Records. My deal was with a split deal between MCA and Curb Records, but it was the people we meet and the people that we have those early experiences with are so important. How many times were you sort of put together with somebody to work compared to the times that projects or songs came about from just an organic meeting, just getting to know somebody on your own?
Well, probably one of the biggest life-changing events that ever happened to me was just that way. I was Rick. Like I said, Rick Gerard was the producer that I was mentioning earlier, who I will always be grateful to for a lot of things. This being one of them. I was making chord charts for him and playing on the sessions. He had a new artist, a young female artist, who had been signed to the Beach Boys label. And the label disbanded, and so he picked her up as an artist on Bell Records, and she was a young songwriter, singer, and named Amy Boersma, and he assigned me to rehearse with her on her songs for the sessions he was going to do coming up, and write out chord charts for the songs. And so I got to meet her, and we rehearsed together, a few days in a row, almost for about a week. And I'm married to her now. we stayed in touch over the years. At the time, she had a boyfriend who was still a good friend of ours, another Texan, Robbie Leff, and so we were all like just young kids, in our teens, who had all kind of run away in one form or another to California and met out there, and never would have dreamed back then, although I had kind of a crush on her, that all these years later we'd be married with 2 grown kids. And but that was one of those, where I was kind of assigned to a task, and it turned out to be much more than anything I would have imagined.
Well, and it shows the importance of a great chord chart, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Well, what a wonderful story. Well, that sounds like that sounds like an introduction to a song.
Okay. Well, let's see. What could I do? This is one I thought I may regret trying this, but I'm going to try it anyway. We had mentioned, writing, and for me, a big part of my career has been writing, but also co-writing. This is a song I wrote. One of the songs I wrote with Kenny Loggins, and I don't normally do it, but he had a nice hit with it, and a song called "This Is It." There have been times in my life I've been wandering away. Still somehow I believe we'd always get by. Now I'm not so sure you're waiting to hear one good reason to try. Oh, what more can I say? What's left to provide? You think maybe it's over, not if you don't want it to be. Are you gonna wait for a sign, a miracle? Stand up and fight. This is it. Make no mistake where you are. The waiting is over until it's over and done. One way or another, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. No time for wondering why. It's here, the moment is now, about to decide and let them believe or leave.
Stop